Welcome to the Cybertron City podcast, New York City's premier Transformers fancast, where we celebrate all eras of Transformers except Kiss players. My name is Paul, aka Brooklyn Bots, over on Instagram. I am joined by my regular co-host Danny, aka Matrix_Mez23, over on Instagram. Danny, how you doing tonight?
Doing all right. I know we have a kind of like a personal top 3, top 5 list, and I think these are the most fun because we get to see in the comments who agrees with us, who disagrees with us, who kind of just like throws us, under the bus for our opinions. So
Exactly.
these are always the more fun ones for me.
Totally. And for those of you listening on YouTube, feel free to drop in the comments below. Today is actually going to be a top 3 vintage and top 3 modern figures. And this is not just from G1s, not just from Beast Wars. Again, because we celebrate all eras here at Transformers, this is whatever is personal to you. And how are we defining vintage? I think vintage would be like anything pre-Classics 2006, or do you want to like go anything before Siege being vintage? What do you want to define on that?
I went into mid 2000s. I do have some vintage G1 stuff in my collection, but not enough. Like if I popped one out in in one of the lists, people would be like, "Oh, like this kid's a phony. This kid's faker. He's not a true vintage collector." So I figured, let me not, and I'll just put it up as like an honorable mention.
Screw the neckbeards. No neckbeards are allowed here. Oh my goodness.
I grew up with 2000, so that's kind of like vintage for me. I know a lot of people who are listening kind of are. Not everybody was born in the 50s like Paul, so I figured we narrow it down to kind of childhood vintage. But it doesn't have to follow that,
Womp womp. Jeez, ouch. You see, this is what happens at night. Like Danny starts turning into a freaking werewolf. He gets a little bit too savage. All of a sudden, get some wolfsbane out there. I'm not exactly sure what we're going on the Superstitious podcast about now, but I guess, we're after we're the day after Labor Day today. So we're already getting the spooky season. So Danny's already getting on his savage shit today. Anyways, we have quite a bit of news to get through today. So I wanted to bring a few things to attention. Probably the most pressing thing is the Transformers Hall of Fame voting opened up today and will be concluding on September 10th. So probably just after this podcast is posted on YouTube, Spotify, maybe Apple Podcasts soon. We'll let you know wherever you guys want to talk about. But the results for this Hall of Fame poll would be revealed at Hasbro PulseCon on September 13th. I believe that's the day. So not this coming Friday, but next Friday or this Friday by the time this posts. So I think the polls were for the favorite of the 13, favorite legacy figure, favorite studio series figure of the year, and then favorite exclusive, I believe. So those are probably things we're going to cover later on as the year draws to a close. We're definitely going to have a 2024 recap session.
It's going to be so much fun.
But if you guys haven't voted already, by the time this comes out, please go ahead, vote for your favorite, and they will let you all know what that's going to be on Hasbro PulseCon. So other than that, there's been a few weird toy reveals over the last few weeks or so. The one that really caught my attention that I want to talk about first is this, and I mean whack collaboration, the Transformer that just came out. Bump of Chicken Base Optimus Prime. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I woke up to it as I usually do, and I just see random stuff on my feed thinking, hey, maybe this is a dream, maybe it's not. Whether it's good or not is another question, but I don't know. I kind of like the colors of it. I kind of like the amalgamation of just different oranges and greens and blues, just that make up that Earthrise Optimus Primal. Doesn't sound like you're too fond of it.
I don't know. Unlike you, I'm not tripping on shrooms right now, so I'm not exactly sure why you're so fond of this like Fruit Loops Optimus Prime. This thing looks awful.
It looks like shit, but I love it.
Like an eyesore. This thing is legitimately an eyesore. You think a G2? What you think G2 Grimlock, the Tiger Stripe Grimlock was bad? You think the Sideswipe or Breakdown or whatever other like horrendous. G2 Thundercracker, you think that's bad?
Thundercracker.
This thing makes G2 Thundercracker looks like it's ready for freaking Milan Fashion Week. This thing looks awful.
Let me pull it up again.
This thing
Maybe
looks terrible.
maybe
Please
you're
tell
right.
me you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I just wanted to see it again because I like it so much. It looks so stupid.
It's so
it looks like a
dumb.
prototype.
It looks so dumb. Like
I
again,
don't know.
this is kind of like not Kiss players exactly, but Kiss players adjacent with some of the weird shit that Japan just does sometimes.
It looks
Like
so bad.
you remember all those different Bathing Ape versions of both Masterpiece and G1 Optimus Prime that came out like what 10 or so years ago when Bathing Ape was actually like a popular clothing brand?
I don't really remember it now.
Gotcha. It was basically a bunch of these G1 and Masterpiece Optimus Primes, and like these. The primary colors would be like green or black or yellow or red or whatever, like where Optimus would have his red, but instead of having his blue, it was like these weird camo prints, and they would have like the Bathing Ape logo wherever the Autobot logo was. Long story short, Bathing Ape is a big Japanese clothing brand, so they did that for a long ass time and like really milked the G1 and both the. I'm not sure about the MP01 Optimus Prime, the original Masterpiece, but they definitely did it with MP10. But that's kind of the point being, that's what this. I have to look at this name again. What the hell is it called?
Bump of chicken.
Chicken base, whatever the hell that is. Oh my goodness.
I'm open to getting it. I'm open to getting it. It looks goofy, and I feel like it's one of those Optimus Prime figures that's gonna be like maybe not rare, but it's definitely gonna be one of those that like people are gonna be like, oh, that was stupid. I should have gotten it.
Look at Instagram for Danny's account. Again, Matrix_Mez23 for when he is absolutely blasted on shrooms taking that photo session.
Shrooms and like Four Locos just gone.
Exactly. Locos Tacos. You're actually eating Taco Bell now, aren't you? Speaking of Locos Tacos.
I think you're revealing a little too much of the behind the scenes. You're breaking the fourth wall here.
Deadpool
I'm not gonna
Wolverine is still in theaters. They want content. This is what they want. They want to.
I'm not gonna confirm that I was eating a soft taco from Taco Bell down the street, but did you see the other piece of news, another big expensive piece of news that I feel like if you're gonna be angry about something this week, this should definitely be getting all the anger and not the tripped out bump of chicken Optimus Prime. This is the what is it called? I'm probably gonna butcher it, but the Manju Netsuke Optimus Prime that got revealed this week that is going for $4,500 USD. It's insane that people are that they thought it was smart enough to kind of reveal this as this like kind of grand piece that a bunch of people are going to be lining up for. I believe they're going to be made by order. So I don't know how you feel about that. I want to know that. Maybe I'm tripping out.
So when I first saw this, I thought it was just like a redo of the Thrilling 30s Legends Cosmos. If what I'm thinking of is correct, it's like that Black Optimus Prime. It transforms as like a disc-shaped thing.
Yeah, it looks like, literally just like Thrilling 30s Cosmos.
What is it exactly? Is it a watch? Is it a like smart device? What is it? I'm genuinely at a loss for this.
Now, this is more involved in like the Japanese culture. So asking a Mexican from New York is probably not your best bet on figuring out what the hell this thing is supposed to be. But I know it's something Japan related. You could take it from here because I'm butchering it. You could butcher yourself. There you go.
No, I will listen. The transplant from Washington D.C. trying to decipher what the hell this thing is either is not going to make any more sense. So I'll take whatever you're working on it. It basically it's the world's worst retool of Thrilling 30s Cosmos that's somehow going for $4,500. What that is, please, again, let us know in the comments, whatever this doohickey is. I haven't done much research on it. I just knew that it's like, this is weird.
Oh, got it.
And just move straight
so
past
I did a little So I did a quick little Google, and it says that it is a form of toggle that was used to secure personal items suspended on the cords from the kimono sash. So this is definitely something that is more for the Japanese audience out there and the Japanese market. Hence why they revealed it over there. But $4,500 for a transformer of any kind, I don't care what it is absolutely ridiculous. And it's not even as big as you may think. From like the pictures I've seen, unless I saw something that was edited, it's like a Legends class.
It looks it looked like a joke. Like again, this is something that I would just be like, whatever, scroll past it. But I had no idea it cost that much. Just I thought HasLab Unicron was like life reevaluating purchase. If you're spending $4,500 on that rinky dinky piece of junk, just get out. This is actually worse than Kiss Players territory, in my opinion.
Unicron was what, $600, $700 after tax when he released, and now
No,
on the aftermarket maybe like $2,000. So you could get two Unicrons for the price of this thing.
well, living in New York at the time, again, this is disclaimer here. So if you were living in New York in 2019 when this charged, it was 626 after tax shipped. Assuming you had like Hasbro Pulse Premium or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was back in the day. Well, I'm not even sure if with HasLab they charge shipping because for something that big, it's like, come on, all inclusive costs at that point. But we're getting into the weeds here. The point is, this thing looks stupid. This thing looks stupid.
This thing sucks.
This thing looks really bad. Another thing that kind of looks weird is they had more images of that like Studio Series Crosshairs retool of AOE and TLK Optimus Prime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, I'm torn on this. Like, if it's not outlandishly expensive, which again, as a crossover, you never know, and it's Optimus Prime, so they'll probably juice it as much as they can for this absolutely like asinine retool. But I can imagine some people would like this. It's just I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know why this
Yeah.
mold specifically when they're going to have a proper Night Optimus Prime next year. But that's neither here nor there. It's just nah.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It looks pretty cool, but I mean, like you said, I'm gonna have to see how much it's gonna be retailing for, and then I'll make my decision from there. If I get it, cool. If I don't get it, also cool.
Yeah. And the last thing that I had for news was the reveal of a new Masterpiece figure. So this is, again, with the Masterpiece line, the way that it's working, they're no longer doing the regular Masterpiece line. MP Jinrai was the last of the regular Masterpiece line. And now with MPG, that's kind of the new direction of however Hasbro, Takara are doing the whole Masterpiece thing nowadays. But they just confirmed with, I believe, both toy renders as well as a physical product, MPG God Bomber. So this will be going along with the Super Jinrai and Jinrai figures. So they're getting that full Power Master Optimus Prime, as we know it in English, in Japanese toy form for Masterpiece.
Now, is he going to be included with Gaijin, right? Or is he going to be his own separate release? I haven't caught on with that.
Well, God Jinrai is the combined form.
Oh,
Super,
yeah, that's right.
You mean Super Jinrai?
Yes, Super Jinrai.
No. So there's three different releases. There's regular Jinrai, Super Jinrai, which is MP60 plus the Power Master trailer, and then you have God Bomber. So I believe at some point I imagine there's going to be some sort of like super gift set where you get everything, but I think right off the bat they're just doing everything separately. Of course, because money.
It's going to be like $500 as a set, maybe more.
Exactly. I think that's it for news this week, though. That seemed like the big highlights. I think we got all the ridiculous crossovers things. Again, like this is like crossovers ridiculousness 2 weeks in a row. I thought the Godzilla stuff was bad from last week, but this week had some stinkers, like legit like S tier stinkers as far as collaborative releases. Like, come on, guys, Hasbro, Takara, what are you doing?
Let's wait for next week. Hope we get something.
Most definitely.
But I know you were telling me some pickups that you got, I think, yesterday, and I kind of cut you off because I had to run. But
you did.
Yeah. So, what did you get this week?
So I got two things actually over the last couple of weeks. Last week I didn't get anything. So the first thing that I got was the second to last of the Walmart Star Raiders releases. So it's the leader class bundle of the Star Raiders. So it includes the more toy accurate version of Thundertron, and then Calcitron, who is the blue Magnius retool, new head retool, and Night Strike. So he's cool. I'm probably going to end up keeping the original Legacy Thundertron figure just because I think that's the younger version of the character that I really enjoy.
Mhm.
But I do appreciate the more toy accurate colors, the new sculpting with the pirate hook, and a more toy accurate head to the original Thundertron figure. It's fun. Would basically say if you haven't had a chance to pick up either the original Thundertron figure from back in the day or the original Legacy United figure, definitely get this one. But unless you're really feeling the theme this year, like there's nothing that's over the top or extravagant about this guy. Like it's fun. It's a nice figure. I'm definitely happy I have it. But if you're not sold on the Star Raider theme already, this is probably not going to change your mind.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna pick up that leader box set just because I feel like you get more bang for your buck out of that. But I'm not too fond of the armorizers as is, so I mean,
Yeah.
but I do like the colors on Thundertron a bit better than the original release.
I like the concept of the armorizers. I just wish that there was more integration with them, and like if they're going to do the modularity, like the entire figure needs to modulate instead of having this big honking section of the whole thing that's basically useless.
Hmm.
Because even with the fossilizers and the Junkions, like you were pretty, and even the weaponizers from back in Siege, you were able to mix and match a lot of the figures together. But if this is the last time that Hasbro does that like modulating concept in the toys, I won't miss it, to be honest with
Yeah,
you, because I think at this point, fans just want their characters as quickly as possible instead of getting these like, albeit cool ideas for new characters, but not, super over the top. The other thing that I got this week was something that I wasn't expecting to get, but I found a really good deal for it on Facebook Marketplace. So this was the dramatic capture Nemesis bridge set. I don't think I've told you
ooh,
about this yet.
no, no.
So my reason for getting it is I wanted a new Shockwave because the old Shockwave I have is starting to get a little bit dark with the gray plastic. So like it's not as bad as like Siege Soundwave that I'll get to in just a minute. But I'm
Mhm.
glad I now have like a more cartoon accurate G1 Shockwave that goes with my main Decepticons, whereas the Siege figure can now just be displayed with his whole, powered up armory bits. So I can have
Yeah,
both displayed at the same time. Regarding Soundwave, I initially was going to get the Legacy United version to replace my Netflix Soundwave, and that figure has like some of the worst yellowing on any Transformer figure I've ever seen. Like it's ugly. It's flat out ugly at this point. But the Legacy United one, I wasn't a fan of their cassette bot choices. Like Buzzsaw's cool and all, but I don't want yet another Ravage. I already have the Netflix one. I already have the Siege version. I have freaking like the Target Bullseye version. I don't need yet another version of the guy. And like
hmm,
releasing a comic accurate Rumble doesn't make any sense. When I think of like having a new core class figure like Overkill or Slugfest or Squawk Talk and Beast Box, those would have been great to include instead of just the same old recycled ones over and over again, especially since you're just basically re-releasing a Voyager class figure from a long time ago instead of having another new leader class mold. Especially
yeah,
with this year with how many different re-releases, package refreshes, and repaints we had with Legacy United. Same thing with Legacy Evolution, but this year especially with the leader class assortment, we've had a lot of just straight up re-releases.
yeah. The next wave is just gonna be re-releases and reissues too.
For Legacy United, I think we've only had G1 Sandstorm and Tiger Hawk
It's Tiger
for
Hawk.
originals, right? For
Yep.
leaders.
Yeah, from
Jeez.
what I can remember, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then Megatron, it's the Earthrise mold. It's fine. Um, but considering that leader class Soundwave would have cost $55 anyway, with a bunch of cassettes I wouldn't have wanted, and the next closest Shockwave that I would have had would have been like the comic accurate one from Hasbro Pulse, and that had an Earthrise Optimus Prime head I wasn't too keen on. It's like, yeah, free Earthrise Megatron. I'll just display him with my Netflix Optimus Prime at some point as like a separate display.
I still
It's a
got
fun
that
fig.
That
Exactly.
Siege Megatron.
Yeah. It's a fine figure. It's okay as it is, but worst case, I can always just give it away. I mainly got it for Shockwave and Soundwave, and pretty happy with them.
Yeah, that new leader class Soundwave pack. Essentially, the only new figure there or new character is just going to be the Buzzsaw.
Do you need a $55 transforming bird? I don't think so.
I'm excited for Buzzsaw. As soon as I saw Buzzsaw was going to be in the pack, I was like, "Fucking finally! I could finally finish the Soundwave collection. That's it. No more."
Did you have an original Netflix Soundwave back in the day?
No, I still have my Siege Soundwave.
So this will actually be useful for you.
Yeah,
So,
it'll be useful. Like, I'm not too excited for it because I know that we're going to be getting a new, eventually Studio Series Soundwave, but I'm just excited to have something a little bit better in the collection so I could sell off my Netflix one. My Siege one.
yeah, at this point, I'm just gonna give it away, even if give it to Goodwill. My old Netflix Soundwave.
Whoa,
It's
whoa,
just
whoa, whoa, whoa.
what,
Give it to me. I'm like 20 minutes away. Just give it to me.
dude? It is, dude. The gray plastic is like nasty.
It's like that
It's so,
gross diarrhea brown.
it's like this weird, like murky, like if you're walking in Midtown on like a March
Oh,
day,
okay,
and it's
got
like,
it.
yeah, that gray water, that color,
Yeah.
like mystery liquid. Like if you drink it, you're gonna get a venereal disease.
People
Color
who aren't
gray.
from New York are never coming to New York after hearing that.
Exactly. I know we live in the best boroughs though, Brooklyn and Staten Island.
Yeah, they're the least like gross, filthy boroughs.
Do not go to
Bronx
the
is
Bronx. Yeah,
Bronx is
Bronx is
crazy.
nasty. Bronx is just nasty. It's far away from everything. Sorry, y'all Bronx people, but sorry, Bronx is just nasty.
No, I'm not
Um,
sorry.
I think that's it. Did you have any purchases this week for yourself?
No. Last purchase I got was the Magmatron from last week's segment, and I've been fiddling around with that. I've seen some figures here and there that have won their pickup, but nothing that like screams pick me up at that very moment. My next purchase is probably going to be the 86 Bumblebee, but there's not a lot coming out now that really like forces me to go out and toy hunt, so I just haven't. And also, it's a win-win. Save a lot of money not going out.
Most definitely. I think we can now take off the main topic, or kick off the main topic, rather. Sorry.
Yes.
Scratch that. Let me just re-record that. So.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead.
Check. 1, 3, 2, 1. And with that, I think we can go on to our main topic for today, which would be our top 3 favorite vintage figures, as well as our top 3 modern figures. So Danny, why don't you start off with your first vintage?
I was excited to go first, actually. I have 3 of like my childhood favorites as my vintage ones. I got 2 of these, I think, last year, a bit more than that, but I managed to track them down, get them for a good price, so it makes the experience a whole lot better. But Wing Saber from Transformers Cybertron has got to be up there as like quote unquote vintage figures in my collection that I always go back to. I mean his playability, his ability to combine with the Cybertron Optimus and create that jetpack and having that nose cone split open and become like a turret. I didn't get him with the swords or I think one of the cannons, but I still love him. He's such a big, hefty figure, and he has those lights and sounds, and me being a sucker for lights and sounds and gimmicks. But he was about $30 when I got him, and he kind of just like looked at it was more of a family owned toy store down in Jersey, and he kind of looked at it quickly, and he was like $35, and I was like, okay, done. Like before you could even look at the eBay prices, there you go, and I ran out.
What a steal!
Yeah, because he's going for like $70-$80 on eBay. Incomplete. No, incomplete.
Whoa.
Yeah, so like, hell no. But yeah, I don't have him combined with the Optimus because it's way too heavy for that Prime now. I mean, he's getting what 20 years old, I think, next year. So
Next year,
if
yeah,
I
2005.
if I ever combine them, it'll be for a picture, and that's it. I deconstruct the entire thing, and I can't bear to see my Optimus Prime deteriorate.
I can't believe it because the ratchets on that toy would be pretty strong. I remember the Cybertron figures being quite sturdy. So I guess it's just father time comes first for all. Damn.
Just 5-year-old Danny.
Dang.
It took a toll on Optimus.
No, I love Cybertron Optimus Prime and like having all his different magic mushrooms with Leo Breaker and then Nemesis Breaker with Megatron, and especially Wing Saber because he also had Wing Saber in Transformers Energon. But again, if you're able to make it through that series, that in of itself is an achievement. But I remember even just not really paying attention to the fiction all that much and just the design of Cybertron Wing Saber with Galaxy Force / Cybertron Optimus Prime looking so much better and just more fun to play with because you could actually move him instead of having like Fatimus Prime. And yeah, he basically wore him. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was basically like a giant jetpack with a chest plate for Cybertron Optimus Prime, right?
Yeah, the chest plate was like the main attraction for me when I was looking through those catalogs and seeing that yellow chest plate that splits open on top of Cybertron Prime's chest, and having the what was it in the show? Wing Saber's fingers are the turrets on the on the on the on his vehicle mode, right?
Yep.
And I always wondered how that would kind of translate onto the figure itself, and it's genius because they don't care enough to like make them actual fingers. So it goes from turret, and then you have a slider on one of those finger cannons, and you just slide it a bit, like maybe like less than a centimeter down, and it becomes like the shorter finger, which is supposed to be the thumb.
That's clever though. I like that. That's like clever 2000s engineering that once the movies came out, it's just like, oh, you want to do ball joints on everything? You would not get that out of a Transformer today unless it was like Commander class.
No, that slider is just like, fuck it. Like, there you go. It's like, let's hope it works. And it does. It holds up. I deconstructed the whole slider thing because it was a bit loose on mine, and it's just like two pieces.
Oh, so simple and oh, so satisfying.
It's such a good figure. What's your first pick for vintage toys?
So my figures are all going to come from the same series. So just a preface for that.
Mine too.
But as we talked about, I think earlier on, like why Transformers, our very, very first episode. Shout out if you haven't watched that already. Go back. I command you. But my very first figure on the list is going to be the very first Transformer that I ever had, ever, as a kid. I don't have that exact same figure, but I bought a copy of it years later when I found, shout out to Heroes Hideout, which is a comic book store, I believe, in Albany, because I was perusing their website and I ended up getting him shortly after the pandemic. But the figure I'm talking about is RID 2001 Megatron. Very first Transformer I ever bought. Or first Transformer I ever had, period, when I was a little kid. I remember this was like shortly around the time shortly before the very first Spider-Man movie came out with Tobey Maguire. And my brother ended up getting like one of those Spider-Man web shooters, probably like the original Spider-Man web shooter where you have like the reloadable fluid and whatnot in it.
Yeah.
And my parents were like, oh, you guys can each get a toy that's like $20 or whatever. And I can't believe that toy was worth $20 back in the day. See how far $20 gets you now in 2024. But it was already Megatron. And I just remember for hours looking at that in the box before I could even open it. And I still think Transformers RD 2001, in my humble opinion, has the best packaging art. It's entirely because of nostalgia, but just how like dynamic it was, how like big it was, and it showed you all the different features. It felt like you were watching the Transformers RD 2001 theme song too, with just how like early 2000s, that leftover like intense 90s look to it, how everything looked so extreme. But with as far as Megatron goes from RD 2001, it's been said before, like half the alt modes are a joke, but even an attempted 10 changer, absolutely ridiculous. But it did have a few alt modes that actually held up over time, like the Dragon looks great, the Jet looks passable, the Bat looks passable, the giant claw, like Megatron transforming into a giant hand, utterly ridiculous. But again, it was our first like true different continuity, not connected to G1 in any way whatsoever. In America, Japan's a different story. But yeah, in English, it was our very first truly separate, not connected to G1 Megatron and Optimus Prime. And it's great. Like that's kind of how I've seen and would like to see Megatron again in the future as like this purple dragon, not even remotely military adjacent, Decepticon leader. Like you can
Just a
still tell he's
monster.
Megatron. He's monstrous. He's huge. He still has that like commanding presence and like fate. Like the way his face looks, the way his behavior is just so identifiably Megatron. But just this presence that he has is great. And he looks like he's straight out like a Power Rangers, like I don't know, what was it? Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, whatever the series were from around then. He looks like he was just stripped straight out of those series too. Like the huge bat wings he has behind him in robot mode, how his
The
dragon head
mandibles.
exactly. The dragon feet become or the dragon heads become his feet in robot mode, the all chromed chest, the little Predacon orb right there. He has the dragon feet on either side of his arms. He just looks demonic and powerful. And just I've always loved that design. In my opinion, like top 3 Megatron design easy.
Now, did you fund the RID Optimus Prime HasLab?
Yes, I did.
Because about 2-3 months ago, I started thinking about, oh, like what's gonna be the next HasLab? What's gonna be like? What am I gonna blow a car payment on next year, right?
Yep.
And then it hit me that they're probably gonna HasLab the shit out of that RID Megatron,
And I will buy probably 2 copies just like I did this one.
which is probably upsetting to me because I kind of don't want an RID Megatron as a HasLab, but because of
Get out.
FOMO
Get out. Get
and
out of this
because
podcast. You're done. You're fired. You're gone. Get your werewolf
because
ass. Get your base chicken Optimus Prime like shrooms Optimus Prime ass out of this podcast. I'm done with
no,
you.
like I'm sure it's gonna look great if they do, but I didn't grow up with RID, so getting like I obviously want an RID Megatron if I'm gonna have the RID Optimus, but I'm still sour on not getting a Primus this year. So it just means I'm gonna have to wait another year. So maybe 2 years from now we'll have a Primus.
I am okay with that because I don't have a proper apartment to store that huge thing in yet. And the longer they can like procrastinate on it, so it's not another like kibbly mess like Unicron is that I'm afraid to touch, perfectly fine. Perfectly fine with me. Take their time. So when they do a Primus, it will be awesome. All right, your number 2 vintage pick. What are you doing?
Number two, I was gonna give it to Prime, but no, you know what? I'm gonna keep it with Prime. The Cybertron Optimus Prime. Like you, I'm sticking to one line and one line only. I've spoken so fondly about this series. It was my G1 essentially before I branched out into like actual G1. So I have so much respect and love for the show, and I so much admiration for the toy. I brought it through hell and back. I took it to like kindergarten for like show and tell. I, his ratchets might be a bit loose now, but it's only because I've loved them so much. And now as an adult, I keep him as kind of a memory of who I was back then as a kid and how it's kind of transitioned into now. The Siege iteration of the Galaxy Upgrade Prime wasn't enough for me. I had to sell it off because it was breaking, it was falling apart, and I just didn't care enough for that updated figure. The Cybertron Optimus Prime has got to be like the biggest Optimus Prime toy out there that's kind of been out, and its features are unmatched. And back then it was like $60, $70 maybe. That's like pushing it too. I'm not too familiar with how the prices were back then, but the playability, the Cyberplanet key gimmicks, the lights and sounds, the previously mentioned Wing Saber that could combine with him, the Leo Breaker that could combine with him, the I don't know, the character itself just comes across so well in toy form that he's got to be number two only because he's not the holy grail of that line that I've had for 20 years.
No, it's a good. It's we've talked about this before, but I really do like the Cybertron Optimus Prime design. It feels so incredibly dense, and I miss the way that those Transformers felt back in the day, where they weren't super cheap. Not that they're super cheap now, but I guess like they felt more durable. Like if they
Hmm.
fell off a shelf, they weren't going to shatter. You didn't have to worry about like, oh, geez, look at the ball joint that just like went halfway across the living room or across the kitchen floor or wherever you are. Um, but Cybertron Optimus Prime, super great, loaded with gimmicks, felt substantial. Still had a Matrix in it too, and not every Optimus Prime had a
Yeah.
Matrix, let alone a removable Matrix back in the day either.
It had a faceplate gimmick where you could lift the lever up on the back of his head and the faceplate would come up, or you could change it and alternate in between modes. Because he would have that regular mode where he has the faceplate down. He's a bit shorter, he's a bit more stubby. And then going into super mode, you bring the faceplate up, flip out the kind of like ears on the side of his head, and just beefs up his head a bit more. And I'm a bit upset that we didn't see that kind of like lever feature on any other Optimus Primes, especially like 2007 Prime when the movies came out or animated Primes. I mean, I know there was a couple of leader Primes in animated that had a faceplate gimmick, but I don't think I've seen another Prime figure do it as well as this did.
No, it was also the first one, correct me if I'm wrong, that actually had in fiction Optimus Prime with lips. Then the movies did it, then animated did it, and then it kind of became a standard for Optimus Prime to pretty much have,
Yep.
a mouth underneath the faceplate. It was Cybertron that did it first.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of how the movies do it. I like the Beast Wars Primal and Cybertron way of having that kind of faceplate under the nose, and they have the mouth exposed, and they have a faceplate on the bottom, and then the real faceplate comes in and fills it all out. I
Yeah,
don't know if you know
that's
what I
definitely
mean.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Although I prefer my Prime with a faceplate. Like if you're gonna
yeah,
choose between faceplate and no faceplate, give it the faceplate. But the option of having like a
yeah,
retractable one
100%.
on the toy is cool. But like, don't give me a Prime without a faceplate unless it's animated. That's like the one that I think they can get away with it.
Yeah, they wanted to like push that on us for so long that to relate to a character you need to see their face, but we're here 40 years after G1, and Optimus Prime never had a face back then. I don't think you need to push that Robo Lips agenda on us anymore.
At least not with that version of the character. No.
No, no, no. But yeah, that's number two in my list. Cybertron Optimus Prime, such a great toy, such a great character. Meeting Gary Chalk, I feel like I checked everything off in my Cybertron wish list.
100%.
What's your second pick for vintage? I know you're doing RID. There,
Actually gonna do. I was gonna do Optimus Prime, but I've talked about that figure a lot. And we talked quite a little bit of. Sorry, stuttered. One, two, three. I know we've talked quite a bit about RID 2001 Optimus Prime, especially on this episode with the HasLab, and I don't want to quite toot the horn on that just because we've already done that. So to do something different, I'm actually going to do RID 2001 Scourge/Black Convoy, which is
okay.
really just the G2 Laser Optimus Prime, but with the laser feature removed, given the all black and chrome paint job. And Scourge really wrote the template on how Nemesis Prime is done right. He wasn't the first true Nemesis Prime. That was actually Copy Convoy from back in Beast Wars 2nd. But as far as the American exposed market was concerned, you really had the first version of that character with Scourge. And he wasn't, an evil clone. He wasn't like this bumbling idiot. He wasn't this like personalityless, devoid, gremlin of Unicron that just growled all the time. Like he was a fully fleshed out character. And the whole thing was it was a stolen Autobot protoform corrupted with Megatron's Spark Crystal. And it scanned both the tanker truck and the likeness of Optimus Prime, but it wasn't actually Optimus Prime. So similar to, but not as like straight up black repaint, which I thought was cool. Um, and quite a conflicted character too. Just him having his own ambitions and eventually being, mind wiped into a mindless servant. But for the time that he did have a unique character in the show, it was great. As far as the toy is concerned, though, he still, because he was Optimus Prime, had a bit of a base mode, and having his like giant sword of fury, the big pink translucent one, looked awesome against his glaring pink eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and just how impressive and imposing he was. And he's also proof of concept that, like, especially for a younger Transformers fan, you didn't have to have this overly complicated toy to have fun. And admittedly, Megatron, Ultra Magnus, Optimus Prime, Skybite, those are some complicated toys for like little kids. And they're not complicated now, where even though there might be pieces that are, intricate and involved, you still feel like the figure is going to remain intact. Versus back then, where even transforming some of those figures now, like Skybite, you're like, please don't fall off. Please orient this correct way and not look weird on the shelf. With Scourge, it's very straightforward Optimus Prime transformation. You fold the
Yeah.
feet down, you extend them out, you take the head out of the chest, you extend the shoulders out. And you also have a fun base mode too. You had like the air launching missile, you had the different discs that shot out, you had like a proper base that you could, whip out from the trailer, came with a little like transparent laser gun. It was fun. It was like not only a figure, but also a full play set altogether. And with the legacy version of that mold, I feel like they hit as many marks as they possibly could, given like the limitations within the new scale and the focus on articulation versus playability. Um, but there's just something about the G2 Laser Optimus Prime mold that just hits the spot. And the original figure still holds up after all this time.
Yeah, that thing is a brick.
Very much so.
It looks so hefty.
A slightly articulated brick, but for 1995, whenever Laser Prime originally came out, for 1995, it's pretty freaking solid.
And that trailer, like you said, that having to carry on that Optimus Prime gimmick, but still making it its own. I don't know. I saw the Legacy Scourge a couple times here and there, but I feel like it didn't give the aura of the 2001 Scourge enough for me to justify the purchase. And like you said, having essentially birthing the idea of Nemesis Prime being that much of an influential character in appearance and story and look, or just, just as another villain, is something worth, applauding this toy for.
And no other version of Nemesis Prime has come even close to that. The only one that's like notable, I guess, would be the Transformers Prime version, where it truly was like a man-made creation that wasn't really an independent Transformer. It was just a giant mech that, funny enough, mech actually built, piloted by Silas. Shout out to all you Transformers Prime, not you, Danny. I know you absolutely hate that show. But
I mean, I know my Transformer Prime lore. Like, I know it. It's just whatever. Go look at episode 5. Go watch episode 5.
Exactly. He means the podcast, not Transformers Prime.
Yeah, don't watch Transformers Prime. Watch our show.
Cancel him. Remember, Alfonso, if you're listening to this, cancel him, not me. But yeah, just such a great character. Would love like an actual Nemesis Prime that's more than just a clone. But getting back to the toy, yeah, the Legacy version I wish was closer to the original deco of Scourge, as opposed to being like whatever Hasbro's justification was. Oh, they didn't know who the character was. Well, go on frickin' TF Wiki. It's not that hard. You can get the deco choices with him there. But it's a fine figure. At the very least, just toy hacks it. But the original, absolutely great. Your final vintage figure, what did you have on deck?
My number 1 vintage figure from the same line, Cybertron, has to go to Cybertron, aka Galaxy Force, Galvatron, aka Master Galvatron, because the paint job itself is gorgeous. I don't know if you've had any experience with this
Yes,
Galvatron.
I used to own that Galvatron back in the
It
day.
is
It
it is
is
the
chef's kiss.
hottest
Awesome.
thing, the hottest thing out there. There's no toy in my collection that comes close to, well, at least my vintage collection that comes close to this guy. I had the Megatron mold since I was maybe like a year after the Optimus Prime, but I love the Megatron. I love its goofy colors, its Crayola pinks and purples and oranges. But this Galvatron just does the mold so much justice and does so much for it that it's it's almost frustrating to talk about because I can't find the words on how gorgeous this figure is. It's race car, dragster mode, Batmobile mode, whatever you want to call it. Looks so much better in this silver, white, gray, and black with the pops of red and the ship itself. I mean, it's all right. It's just the same thing, just with the side swung back. But the robot mode is where it's at. It shines under any light you put it in. I had been looking for this. I mean, I want to say 20 years, but probably not. Maybe like the last 6, 7 years of like my collecting career. But we found it at that same toy store that I got the Wing Saber. I got my the Cybertron Menace were there, my Cybertron Quick Mix, a bunch of Cybertron guys on my wish list I got down there, and I managed to get this guy. It was me and my girlfriend last year who went down to go see what I could get for my birthday. And as we were looking at the Galvatron, another couple walks in, and the kid opens the case and he's talking to the toy guy, and he's like, "Oh, let me see that Megatron." So they had the Galvatron and the Megatron right next to each other, and the guy was struggling to transform the Megatron. I was like, "Bro, like if you don't know how to transform this Megatron, if you don't have the slightest idea, there's no way you're walking out with this Galvatron today." So, so I told my girlfriend, I was like, "This is the one I want." And then she was like, "All right, how much is it?" And I'm like, "Okay, this is gonna be cool. It's gonna be like 100, 120." This guy looks at me. It's $180. I was like, "Oh my
Ooh.
god, it's $180." So I look at her and I'm like, "This is gonna be the only thing I want," and I'll go halvesies with you because this is insane money for this toy. And so I transformed my Galvatron. I transformed them back and forth just to see if he had everything. And then while the owner was helping the other kid with his Megatron, he was like, "Oh, look, that kid knows how to do it." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the same figure. I got you." So I transformed them. I bitched him in front of his girlfriend, and I got my Galvatron that day for my birthday.
Ooh, he just went all savage on that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that figure too. Launching
oh,
missiles, he
such
had
a
like
good
the
figure.
the speed turbines in the back of it. A sick, probably
It is
one of my favorite
huge.
Cyberplanet keys too. Megatron
Yeah, it's
or
got
Galvatron
this.
Megatron's like demonic looking Cyberplanet key.
Yeah, they did not have to go that hard on this figure. It is
No, they did not.
top
And like that,
top five figures in my collection.
that chrome Decepticon symbol straight on his chest. And
Oh, so I'm
correct me if
looking
I'm
at it right
wrong.
now.
Like he has like
Hmm.
those two attachments on his back. One of which is like a spiked like arm blade, and the other one is actually one of his wheels that becomes his gun. Right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like you could spin the like. There's a mechanism on it that you could spin it, so it looks like the turret is spinning like the barrel, and you could recreate that scene that where he just mutilates Hotshot, Red Alert, and Scattershot. But
All because he
I
touched the giant planet key.
mm-hmm. And I have the Nemesis breaker that goes with the Megatron, but I pair it with the Galvatron to have the gray on gray. Oh, such a good figure. I love it. As soon as we're done recording, I'm bringing it down.
He's
It's
gonna
at the
like
top
sleep with
shelf.
it tonight.
Yeah, but that's my number one pick for vintage figures.
My next pick, it's technically three figures, but I'm gonna do a little bit of a curveball because on I think episode 4, we talked about our love for trains. We talked
Yes.
about riding quite a bit. We talked about Astro Train. Talked about shout out MTA. Please work on your signal modernization, please, because you're slacking a little bit there. But I'm gonna say RID Rail Racer. Like
Hmm,
Hasbro,
okay.
we need more trains. We need a lot more trains in Transformers besides Astro Train and like random Japanese exclusives that we get all the time. So we have not had a Rail Racer since, other than that like weird Universe 2003, like CVS only, Walgreens only, like mini bot six train import, whatever it was. But Rail Spike, Rapid Run, Midnight Express, even though some of their robot modes individually are wonky as hell, Rail Racer, absolute favorite combiner of all time. Absolute favorite combiner of all time. Like this really, especially for its time, posable combiner that had like a decent range of articulation and you could get into like really cool poses. Didn't have a waist joint, but like for 2000, 2001 engineering, wouldn't expect it to. For those of you that like car robots, aka JRX was Rail Racer's Japanese name, but he would be another one that I would love to see a HasLab of, or if not, like whenever Hasbro gets around to doing their like subscription service or whatever they teased for it for like more obscure characters, or even just putting him in like, a Transformers line where you have four Voyager class or four Leader class trains and just do that. Like have an entire line of just trains. Danny and I would be on Hasbro Pulse day one, credit cards ready, bank accounts nuked to have a train Transformers line. Just all trains,
Yeah,
all the
leader
obscure
is a
characters
big
you want.
ask.
It's a big ask, but okay. Or maybe they could do like a commander class version of it with like three
I'll
individual
be
ones.
happy
Who knows?
with Voyager. I feel like that's a cool scale for Rail Racer.
He's a very nice Transformer. Love him. Cannot get enough train Transformers. But yeah, Rail Racer back in the day, super fun. I wish with Rail Spike there was a better way to store Rail Racer's proper head other than like staring straight up at him from his chest. Um, Rapid Run also like super skinny, looked like he was put in the trash compactor in Star Wars. Midnight Express, gigantic feet, but like if you're gonna be the base for Rail Racer's feet, like you're gonna look clowny, you're gonna look goofy as hell. But when they're all combined, chef's kiss. Like one of the best engineered vintage combiners back in the day. Can't say enough good things about them.
Okay. So that does it for vintage picks, right?
Yep. Now we do
Do you want
modern.
to? Yeah, do you want to go first with the modern? I started off with vintage.
So for my first modern
Yeah.
figure, interesting. I'm gonna start off with Studio Series 106 Optimus Primal.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
So with the modern releases, and I'm classifying for my personal definition anything modern being from Siege forward or
Yeah,
Studio
me too.
Series forward. So like 2018 going forward with the new like I guess you could say like cohesive close quote scale and whatnot. But as far as leader classes are concerned, especially with the way that they were going, like starting with really the Thrilling 30 series where you had the leader classes like Jetfire, and then all the different like main seekers they did from him, Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp, and Combiner Wars. And then you had the evolving Rodimus Prime and Optimus Prime for Power of the Primes. Leader classes were just starting to feel kind of cheap, and like most of the engineering was going towards deluxes, which makes sense. Like the deluxe figures are going to be the more high ticket volume sales for Transformers because they're cheap enough where you can make so many of them, but they're not so cheap that people will kind of like scoff at them like most legends or especially core classes nowadays, where I feel Hasbro cuts a lot of corners. But with the way that leader class has been sort of, or really all the scale classes have been going, Hasbro is saying, okay, does a character necessarily have to be as large as a typical leader class? No. But if we can take a figure that's otherwise, meant for like a more Voyager scaling, beef him up, give him all these accessories, give him the engineering the character deserves, and just go all in, give him all the paint that's necessary, you get something like SS 106 Optimus Primal. Just superposable, you really enjoy the figure in both modes, which is a very difficult thing for me to do with both with like Transformers in general. Most of the time, I will keep like a Transformer in robot mode and then like sparingly transform it unless like the transformation is like fun and intuitive and simple. But most of the time, I'll
Mhm.
just keep them in robot mode. For Primal, I enjoy both modes like equally. Maybe that's
Yeah, he's
because he
such
was
a good figure.
in. Maybe it was because he was in beast mode for quite a bit in the film, and he didn't show up until robot mode until the very end. But both just feel solid. They're photogenic and super fun to pose. Like I can't get enough of that figure, and I think it's probably one of the best, if not the best, leader class figure in the Studio Series line, uh, for sure. Maybe not
It's
all
such
of
a good
Studio
figure.
Series, but definitely live action. He might be the best.
Top 10, no, top 5, 100%.
What about you for a modern figure?
Oh, modern figure. I don't know. I'm trying to like list them in order and, from least to best, but they're all like pretty heavy hitters. I want to go for the Studio Series Bumblebee movie Megatron, only because it has a history on the podcast already, where I think our first episode we discussed that as being one of your pickups, I believe. And
No, it was one of yours. It was you not finding him, me telling you where to get him, and then you had your
oh
journey with your
yes,
dog to go to Atlantic Terminal.
yes, I think the next day I ran over to Brooklyn, like you said, with my dog Peanut, and he sat in the car for like maybe not even 7, 8 minutes because I ran up and it was the biggest, most annoying Target I've ever had to go through. You didn't tell me there was an elevator and I had to go around the whole block and then there
Oh,
was
it's
two
not that
floors
bad.
there.
It's not that
It
bad. It really
it
isn't. You did
was
not go up to the Chuck E. Cheese. That is not that bad.
there's a Chuck E. Cheese there?
It's on the third floor
What the fuck? Why is there a Chuck E. Cheese there?
because it's like downtown Brooklyn. That's like as close
That's
as you're gonna get to a
terrible.
suburban. I mean,
That's terrible.
people have like actual children here. It's like once they buy their freaking one step mega bumblebee, they're gonna be like, "Mommy, I want to go Chuck E. Cheese."
But yeah, that's got to be number 3 on my list right now. Studio Series Megatron. I
I thought you were gonna
love
say mega one step bumblebee. I was one of
no
your
Mega One
best.
Step Beast Mode Bumblebee from Rise of the Beasts. No, that Studio Series Megatron is so wonderfully done. It's a shame we didn't get to see it in the Bumblebee movie like he was supposed to be. It's a shame that we didn't get any reference of Megatron in Rise of the Beasts. When I think of live action Megatron, that's the one I think about. I We know my distaste for like the designs in the movies, and Megatron was done so so terribly, and I wish that he would have looked more like this. He looks so menacing. He looks so imposing. I love his fusion can. I love his articulation. We're not going to talk about his alt modes because that's not what we got it for. But he looks so good next to the Rise of the Beast Optimus Prime.
I will disagree with you heavily and say that I think Dark of the Moon Megatron is also like one of my top 3 Megatron designs ever.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yes,
I like him.
yes, TF1 and Revenge of the Fallen Megatron look kind of rough, especially Revenge of the Fallen Megatron is like my least favorite Megatron design, at least in the
Mm-hmm.
movies. Just like his like weird, huge, like someone only works out one side of his arm and the other one's like this gimpy little thing.
Yeah.
Awful. But Dark of the Moon Megatron, like, come on now, that thing looks freaking menacing. And Megatron
He
wasn't
was
really a
my.
truck at that
Yeah.
point.
No, 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 no. He had been everything else under the sun except the truck. But yeah,
But yeah, getting back to what you said for Studio Series 109 Megatron, I think that's the number of it.
109.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Like, I actually prefer the jet mode a little bit more than the tank mode on that one. Just with the tank, the way that the turret rotates, it's like, whoa,
He rotates
someone
so
did not do their
weird.
homework.
Yeah.
But the jet mode,
No.
again, it's a lot of Cybertronian stuff. You kind of have to squint. But considering like considering the likes of Bumblebee movie Soundwave that made it to the final round, and along with his
Mm-hmm.
minions transform into whatever they are, I don't think that's the worst Cybertronian mode.
No. It's at least. I mean, you at least have the history of him turning into tanks and aircrafts, which kind of like fills you in those kind of like squint and you'll see it moments. But yeah,
Definitely.
those, it definitely helps this figure. But I'm pretty sure everybody who got this figure wasn't going to get it because that tank mode looked amazing. It was just to have a Megatron that goes with the newer kind of Travis Knight designs that were established back in 2018.
Yeah. Face could have been a little bit better, but
Yeah, 100%.
overall, like as a live action stylized version of G1 Megatron, I can respect it. It is a fun figure
Mm-hmm.
too. And similarly with SS-106 Optimus Prime, I felt like this could have easily been a Voyager class figure, but they decided to bump it up and give it all the bells and whistles, like the premium paint job, the articulated fingers, and really made him feel solid instead of having a lot of hollow spaces on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my number three on that on my modern.
I thought it was your second one.
Is that my first? No, I'm pretty sure that was my third one. Yeah, that was my third one. Well, I'm going 3-1
Oh,
on
okay,
my.
got
I
it.
don't know how you're doing yours. Yeah. I'm
Got
doing
it, got
three
it,
to
got
one.
it. Okay. So my turn for my next modern figure.
Yes.
I am going to do Legacy HasLab Deathsaurus.
Oh, you got a HasLab. Yo, me too.
Yeah, I was kind of looking between like I was scrambling really to like come up with these three modern figures. Not that there aren't a lot
Mm,
of good ones, but like ones that really stand out. So I've
yeah.
talked about Unicron for quite a bit. And as I've said over and over again, and I'll say over and over again until this podcast has its final episode, Unicron is impressive, but it's not a fun toy. It's not really even a toy. It's like a bragging right. Like, yes, I could afford this. I have this in my home. This is how much of a Transformers fan I am. This is how questionable some of my life choices are. I just have this
Uh-huh.
thing. It's not a fun transformer. Like it is a pain in the ass to transform. Um, Looks great in both modes, but not a fun toy at all. So then Star Saber comes along. And he is a fun figure, but similarly, I don't think he's the most fun to transform, although he's certainly like much, 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 much easier than Unicron. But with Star Saber, I don't even think I've ever transformed him. I've transformed Victory Leo, but I've not
Okay.
transformed Star Saber himself. Other than like disassembling him into like his various robot modes, but not like actual vehicle mode. Just because I feel like it's just the problem is with a lot of like these futuristic looking like these like cars or trucks or whatever, especially with Star Saber, how so much of like his super robot mode is just it just transforms into a space whatever. It doesn't really look like anything. It's like it's too futuristic that it's just like okay, it's like some weird Gundam adjacent looking vehicle that doesn't really have any real world or mystical resemblance. It's just like blah. It looks like it just came out of Gundam, which is fair. Like that's kind of what Star Saber was supposed to emulate, like more of a super robot mode look for the time.
Yeah.
But getting back to Deathsaurus, the figure is basically all himself. There's no super mode required. He's just a big honking space chicken. Um, Dragon mode looks ridiculous, but in like a really fun, creative way. And that wingspan is huge, huge wingspan. He comes with his own chair. He has a boatload of accessories, and he takes the whole like Soundwave chest minion thing to like an entirely new level. Like Eagle Chest or Eagle Breast, if you're going off the Japanese dub, is basically Laserbeak if he just like started going to the gym every day and consuming protein powder. Like Eagle Chest is what Laserbeak wants to be. And having him like perched on the back of the throne and then having Tiger Chest like either as like the bow and arrow or just on Deathsaurus's body himself just looks imposing. And the figure's actually fun. Like I enjoy posing him, transforming him is really cool. He has like these really solid ratchets in his knees. And I am so happy he's not a Studio Series 86 Grimlock retool because he would probably end up like that stupid Godzilla repaint from like last week. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
thank God. Thank God Deathsaurus did not go that way. Because Deathsaurus, with I'm not sure how much you know about the Japanese series, but like after Megatron, or Galvatron, I guess, was crushed. You had like a bunch of these weird like floating space brain, space demon wizard thingies in the Japanese continuity. Or you had like Overlord that wasn't really a Decepticon until the end, where he becomes like a separate, fully autonomous transformer. He's really just like piloted by two humans. And then you have like Violent Jiger from Zone, which is really, again, a giant space demon that's somehow a Decepticon. No, like Deathsaurus is like a proper transformer. He's not a headmaster. He's not a, godmaster. He's not a pretender. He's like a like legit awesome character that actually cares about his troops. And that's what I just get the vibe from that figure. It's fun to transform. It's not overly complicated, but it's not overly simple. And there would have been no way in hell we would have gotten this, at mass market in English or in English speaking countries without HasLab. And I'm so happy we have it. He's one of the few Transformers that's actually on permanent display in my room, and just love him. Love Deathsaurus.
Wait, what do you mean permanent display?
He's on display like all the time.
Oh, wait, do you have figures that are not on display all the time?
Do you know how many transforming robots I have?
Well, I mean, I have like older figures that aren't on display, and stuff that's gotten replaced or stuff that's way too big.
Well, most of my
That's
collection's in bins, so I can't really like display everything all at once without this turning into like a whole situation. But yeah, as far as like permanent display, because he has like so much chrome on him, and I'm scared shitless of like damaging all of that, he's just on permanent display. But he's cool. I like having Deathsaurus. He has that like premium feel to him, but not so premium where it's like if I touch him, he breaks. He's just rock solid.
Yeah, Deathsaurus is. I can't even see mine. He's on the top shelf, all the way in the back, because he's expensive. So I throw him all the way back there, so nothing can get to him. Not even me. But he definitely has that premium feel, like you were talking about. All those accessories he comes with, and all those display options. It's like to a point where, like, take it easy. I can't display him with the chair and the bow and everything I want to at the same time, because there's just so much that comes with him.
What about you? What's your final big fig?
Well, no, I think there's two more. Yeah, I'm on my second one right now.
Oh, you're on your second? Okay. Well,
yeah, this guy's trying to give me two. Look at this. You see this? He's only trying to give me two slots here. This is Paul's podcast, apparently.
You canceled yourself early with the Transformers Prime shade.
No. You threw me under the bus with the Transformers Prime. I didn't say anything. You brought it up.
You walked under the bus, boy.
You brought the bus to me.
Then you walked straight under a Staten Island Express bus on that one. That is your fault. Anyway, your number two pick.
For number two, I wanted to go a bit more back in time, back to like maybe like those figures where we forgot that we got. But it is in the Studio Series line, and for number two, I wanted to go with something a bit more different. It's a combination of two. I'm going to go with the Jetwing Optimus Prime combination with Jetfire. That's
Very
Studio
nice.
Series leader class Jetfire release that we got a while ago. What was that, I think maybe 40, 39, something around that. It released with the Dark of the Moon Megatron. But I remember wanting that original release of the Revenge of the Fallen Optimus back in 2009, and wanting that Jetfire to combine it with, which in retrospect was not a good looking combined form. But the Studio Series line mastered it, and taking apart Jetfire and dissecting him and ripping his cockpit apart just to give him to Optimus as his shoulder pads, his cane becoming that kind of like machine gun turret that goes under his arm, his entire upper half turning into that big giant cannon, which I kind of just throw in a bin because it's way too big and heavy for him. But he looks the part. He's massive. He's solid. He could still pose just as well as the single Optimus Prime release can. And it's kind of crazy that they managed it in such like a smaller kind of scale where leaders aren't those leader class sizes that we were used to as kids, and Voyagers aren't as hefty as they used to be, but still holds up. What, 3-4 years since they got released?
Yeah. Having seen that plane in person, like that very same plane that was used, filmed in that like location for Revenge of the Fallen, is actually
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes from where I grew up. And having seen that recently, just the granted, there was a lot of like robot kibble that there was no way, even with modern engineering, that they were going to do that. Like you can clearly see
Yeah.
Jetfire's like scraggly ass old man head underneath the jet mode. But
Mm-hmm.
like the way they were able to get that accurate and, as you said, taking it apart, having it like in separate pieces instead of like all one gangly mess like the original Revenge of the
Yeah.
Fallen figure had, that's an impressive feat. And I'm happy it's getting a re-release soon. So if you guys missed out on that, definitely check out the, what was it, like the Amazon exclusive or Pulse exclusive or something like that. It's the
Yeah.
re-release with SS32 Optimus, the RC Chromia Elita 1 bikes, and then Jetfire himself. So definitely a cool
For
figure. Definitely one of the better Bayverse figures as well.
for some reason, coming with the RC triplets.
Like the figures nobody asked for.
Yeah. Wouldn't
Literally
you have wanted like
nobody.
a Jolt?
Or Jolt would have made sense. Like Jolt and Ratchet.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe give it like a Desert Ratchet paint scheme like he had in 2009 Toy Line. Like that would have been cool.
No, Jolt would have made more sense. Like give him like
Yeah.
a brand new effect part with like the electrified bits on his whips.
Yeah,
Like
you
the
would have gotten
one
me to buy
scene,
it.
the one bit of screen time that Jolt actually gets, and you forget to include him in there. Like, what are you doing, Hasbro?
Or even that, like you could have given us maybe the twins in that pack, since you have more of like a secure purchase from the consumers that missed out on those two releases of Optimus and Jetfire. You know, they're forced to get the twins. See how
I
they
feel like
how well they do there. I don't know.
we could have an entire podcast just on the twin question. That might be a future podcast discussion.
Racist twins.
Racist or just stupid, or like the beginning of
Annoying.
basically what would happen if the minions smoked crystal meth. You get
I didn't even
Schism
know they
on
were like. I didn't even know they were like racist. Like jokes behind it, or they were like meant to be like racial stereotypes as a kid. I just thought they were annoying.
I did too. I thought they were just like some annoying like wannabe gangsters from like the 2000s. It wasn't. I guess we're getting into that a little bit. I'll say
Yeah.
this much. I'll say this much before we like really go off topic. But back then, especially if you were growing up in the 2000s, like when hip hop and rap really started getting big, like the height of like Eminem's fame and everything like that, or like 50
Mm-hmm.
Cent back then, it was kids just trying to imitate rappers. That's what it was. It wasn't like a big racist thing, at least the
It
way
was
that I'm
just
seeing it. And it was just like it
yeah.
was just like what kids did, and that's how it was trying to come across. Just like a bunch of
It
like
was just kids
wannabe
being
gangsters.
kids.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Just yes, they looked goofy. Yes, they look ugly, but like a lot of the like 50% of the Michael Bay characters look goofy and ugly too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
All right, top one. Top one.
Top one
Before we
figure
get
is
canceled.
top one figure similar to you back in your like vintage figures. I personally have a big soft spot in my heart for Gary Chalk as Optimus Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Although I prefer the
Uh-oh.
front end of the Unicron trilogy, so this is going to be Legacy Evolution,
Okay.
Commander Class, Armada Optimus Prime. So
Yeah, I
same
knew this
Optimus
was going to be on
Prime,
your list.
earlier figure. This is a figure I have been waiting 20 years to get it. I remember the Christmas where I got Armada Optimus Prime. I can paint that picture very clearly. And I will paint that picture very clearly.
Oh,
I
okay, he's going to paint
remember
it.
it being Christmas 2002. It was the Christmas where my grandmother actually said to my brother, "You don't still believe in Santa Claus, do you?"
That's crazy.
Grandma was savage, just savage. Again, there were no tears, but it was definitely, for lack of a better term, a red pill moment for my brother. Um, and I remember that was the Christmas that Armada was on the air for Transformers. And I remember very late in the night being allowed to open one present. And of course, me and my dumbass decided to go toward the big conspicuous box that looked like I think Supreme class was no, it wasn't Supreme class. It was Mega class, Super class. What the class sizes were different back in the day. The point being, it was Armada Optimus Prime, and I was a little disappointed with like how the brickish articulation was with the figure because like literally all the Armada figures were bricks except Unicron for some reason. But I always loved the design of Armada Optimus Prime, and the Super Robot mode looked freaking cool. So fast forward to 2023, I hear this figure is getting an update. And to date, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but even though I'm sure I'm going to love SS86 Optimus Prime, and that might be my number one Optimus Prime figure in my collection, but it's going to be pretty dang hard, even knowing how far they went with Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime. It's going to be pretty hard to dethrone that Optimus Prime as like my favorite Prime in my collection without the nostalgia glasses. The HasLab RID 20 or 2001 Optimus Prime might do that and reclaim that spot as my favorite Optimus Prime design ever. But as of right now, just having that Optimus Prime with modern articulation, solid core robot, like the old, like super tight ratchets, and a super robot mode with like all the articulation you expect out of a modern figure, delicious. And everything integrates. There's no like weird. It's a delicious figure. Just I'm so happy that everything just integrates and there's no weird leftover pieces, and the base mode looks all right. Like literally the only thing I don't like about the figure is it doesn't come with spark plug. That's it. Everything else
they had
fantastic.
such a great opportunity to include mini cons and see how the reception was back then.
They need to just like, if they're going to drop core class, they need to reintroduce mini con packs.
Yeah, but Sparkplug is going to get scalped to shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, minicon packs like they did back in the day where they had
so,
like three different ones. That'd be great. But I mean, Sparkplug is basically Sparkplug. If you look at him, he's Bumblebee. He's like Camaro concept Bumblebee before Bumblebee. Like I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Sparkplug's Japanese name in Superlink, which is the Japanese version of Transformers Armada, I think his name is Bumble.
I believe it is. I know it's not Bumblebee exactly, but I do think it is Bumble or something along the lines of that.
Yeah, like if you look at Sparkplug's head, it has horns, and it is a yellow transforming car with horns and Bumblebee's face. Like it is a dead ringer for Bumblebee. It had
I remember as a
concept
kid
mode before even the Michael Bay movies did.
Yeah, he was the guinea pig.
You were saying something?
Yeah, I remember as a kid playing the PlayStation 2 Armada game, seeing Sparkplug in it, and just like beginning to learn about different continuities with Transformers. I used to get him confused with Bumblebee. I was like, wait, why is he a minicon in this show? Why is he a minicon in this game? I don't understand it.
Yeah, just to date, my favorite Commander class. I pretty much like every Commander class figure that they've done so far with, Siege going forward. But if I had to narrow it down to my absolute favorite, no question about it, Armada Optimus Prime, hands down.
I've never seen it. Yeah, one more thing on the Armada Prime. Sure. I've never seen it in store, never seen it retail, never, like most Commanders, right? The only time I ever saw the Commander class Prime was meeting Gary Chalk. He had his personal Commander class Prime that he was transforming as I walked up to him. And I didn't want to bother him because he looked like he was having so much fun. And he put it down just to like start signing my stuff. And I was like, damn, like, I would have let you transform. I would have come back in like 10 minutes.
Dang. I love when voice actors actually love the franchise they're part of. Gary Chalk is a treasure. Just, again, Peter Cullen is like, he is Optimus Prime, but Gary Chalk absolutely made, like, obviously Optimus Primal, but for an entire generation of kids, both you and I included, even Optimus going back Prime. To the Beast Wars era, he is probably number 2 only to Peter Cullen for being like the
Yeah.
standard bearer for Optimus Prime.
Yep. Number 2. But for my last pick, I wanted to put a HasLab in it, kind of just expanding my choices and picking out from here, different price points, different, standard single figures to combiners to now being a HasLab. I know you put that Saurus on it, and I had considered putting that Saurus earlier or yesterday when I was making this list, but it has to go to Star Saber for me. And I know you had your, qualms and nitpicks with Star Saver yourself, but I don't know if it's just the nostalgia of 2 years ago of getting Star Saver in the mail as my first HasLab, but I feel like the combined form is so well done. It holds together so well. I like Victory Leo as his own thing. He could have been like a leader class figure, honestly, because that's essentially what he is, like a leader class scaled figure. I love the turrets that go over Star Saber's shoulders, the playability with the shield, with that base mode. I mean, we didn't really need it. I've only seen it once just to get like my money's worth to see what the base mode looked like. But being being the first HasLab I've gotten and having such a positive experience with it made me want to go back for seconds and get that Saurus and then fund Omega Prime. And he kind of just kickstarted that HasLab experience for me, having those Gundam details on him. Because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the creator for the iconic Gundam, I forget the actual name of it, the mech suit. People are gonna come for me in the comments, but I believe he also worked on the creation of Star Saber, which is why you see all those like Gundam notes of the face plates, the horns, the antenna, the shield,
Yes,
the swords, all those kind of like anime proportions that Star Saber has. And it adds a bit more of like a lore to that figure. And I don't know, I know there's a lot of people who had a lot of QC issues with them, with things snapping off, and I've had a stress mark for the last 2 years and I haven't touched it. So that's probably how that's gonna end up for the next few years. But yeah, number one, the Ghost of Star Saber. He's Victory Saber. I mean, he's such a good combined, kind of solid, heavy, hefty figure that I could just play around with for days.
calling back to what I said earlier and what you just mentioned now, yes, I believe that there were either people who had worked on Gundam directly or
Mm-hmm.
people that were like adjacent to Gundam that worked on the design for Star Saber and Victory Saber. Because I think Toei Animation, which is the animation studio that worked on the Gundam series, actually worked on the Japanese Transformers series once Sunbow finished G1 and the Japanese took over the direction of Transformers fiction. So it makes sense. But in Japan at the time, I believe they were going for more like the super robot feel as opposed to like the more realistic one. And Star
Mm-hmm.
Saber's supposed to evoke that. He's supposed to be more like the superheroic, super, kind of. I mean, even his personality is definitely more like Captain America. To be honest with you, like he's even
The
more Captain
Master
America.
Swordsman.
He basically
Yeah.
is. Like he's even more Captain America than Optimus Prime is. He's like the superheroic Master Swordsman, like Jedi of the Transformers franchise, which is a very different interpretation of him compared to IDW, where he's like this religious nutcase. But sticking with Transformers Victory, as I said earlier, is it my cup of tea? No, we're talking about Danny's right now. But it's great. The platform, I think I finally came back to me, the V Star, the big
Yes.
weapon platform that he connects to. Um,
It is
but
not
he's
good. I
great.
will say that. It's a very nothing spaceship mode, but connected all together, it's solid. Like it's not one of those connections where you shake it too much and the like actual like jet, the little mini jet's gonna fall off and you're gonna have a terrible time.
Agreed. I think like the base figure Saber Like in his
Yeah.
strict robot mode, that or the vehicle mode, that looks really good. I do like the Russian doll aspect of him, where it's like you have the brain of courage, you plug that in, then you get Saber. You fold Saber up, you plug that in, you get Star Saber. You have Victory Leo, who's really just a
Yeah.
reborn God Jinrai. You plug him in, then he's Victory Saber. It's just like it is. It's a Russian doll, and that is
Yeah.
probably like the coolest aspect. And I'm happy they retained that in the HasLab version of him. I remember briefly having the Masterpiece version of Star Saber, and I think
Hmm.
the Brain of Courage was even smaller than he was on the HasLab version, just which is completely and utterly bonkers to me. But
Yeah, it's tiny.
it's very small. Like, please, if you get one or you guys already have one, this is like a legit public service announcement. Please keep it away from reach of pets and small children. That thing is probably going to choke on, like, it'll be a choking hazard for sure.
You could inhale it.
Yeah. One thing I also like about Star Saber is they gave him like a legit flight stand with the Transformers Victory logo on it.
Yes. They went all
So
out on this. Not as much
yeah,
as Saurus, but they were definitely like trying to win people back after Unicron.
I think for Star Saber it fits though. Like you want to have something that's versatile where you can be like a legit flying, in his vehicle modes if he wants him to. Versus with the Death
Hmm.
Saurus, like the throne just makes sense.
Yeah, he does have that little flying stand too, though. That little like burgundy one. I've used it once, and I was like, no, this isn't for me.
Nah, it's okay. I'm glad it's there for people who want it, but it wasn't necessary. Like just give me the throne. Give me the
They look
throne. If I want to have him in Space Chicken mode, he'll be in Space Chicken mode.
they look so good together.
And they're big. They're done right. They're big figures. They look correct instead of, as we were saying earlier, freaking like Studio Series Grimlock as
Yeah,
Deathsaurus. Just no. Would have been the worst retool idea. I will not shut up about that. It would have been one of the worst retool ideas in
he would have
Transformers
gotten he would have
ever.
gotten clapped in an instant.
He would have
Wouldn't have
gotten
stood a
clearance.
chance.
Would have been more clearance than Studio Series Battle Damage Prowl and Ironhide,
I still
which
see
I'm
those to
still
this
seeing
day.
those on Amazon. Just
Yo,
like
yeah,
$22. Hey, buy it, please. And I'm still seeing every single time I go to Target. Like now, I'm
bronze.
seeing Brawn and Ratchets just everywhere. Like, who thought that was a good idea? Who thought those were going to sell in bulk? Nobody.
I look at those and every time I look at them, I'm like, oh, Braun and Ratchet, those are good figures. And I'm like, oh, they have different heads. That's funny. Like I like those cracked windshields. And I'm like, wait, I have them. I don't need it.
Me too. I'm like, how much are you charging for these guys? Like $60 almost after tax.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Absolutely
no,
not.
absolutely not. Just give me
Mm-mm.
some more Decepticon soldiers from Gamer Edition. I'll take about 3 of those, please.
I want to see those. I know we're going a bit off topic, but I want to see those Devastation Decepticon troopers, the Coneheads and the Runamuck, Runabout repaints. I feel like those would bulk up the Decepticon forces.
Have you seen the leaks from next year?
Yes, I hope that they go all out on the cell shading, but well, only because it'd be kind of cool to see since we haven't seen that since the 35th anniversary releases for Megatron and Optimus. But if I hope they also do like a regular release where it's just regular paint apps, no cell shading, so they could fit into your kind of chug generation scale and collection.
Well, I think they're going to use the. I think they're going to use the Ramjet mold for the Seeker, and they're going to use, I
Mhm.
believe, the Runabout Runamuck mold for the
Yes, I
Ground
want to see
Soldier.
that. Give me that.
Um,
2 packs.
but I think when you know how they're doing the A level assortment from now on,
Yeah.
the I think for next year, B127 from Transformers One is the Bumblebee version, whereas the Optimus Prime they say Dev, but it's the same like Dev label that the Troop Builder pack is going to be listed as too. So I think it may be like a deluxe scale G1 Optimus Prime that's not the G1 toy version for whatever reason, but
Hmm.
however it's done, I think that's the Optimus Prime we're going to be getting in 2025 for
2020.
the A level assortment. Devastation accurate Optimus.
We'll have
I
to
mean,
wait and
technically
see.
we all technically we already have a Transformers Devastation figure out there already.
Hold on, I'm trying to think. Are you referring to the Devastator?
No, it's Nova Prime because that's how his design was based off
Oh,
of.
that's right. That's right. That's right. I have the Superior Nova Prime, but that's all right. You guys have your Legacy one.
I love it though. One, give me that DNA design kit. That's gonna look glorious. I think we may as well wrap it up here. We're already
Yep.
on 90 minutes, and it is starting to get kind of late.
It is
But
gonna be a
again,
bitch to upload.
let
The
us
things
know
I
in the
do for you
comments.
guys.
Let us know in the comments what you guys believe are your favorites. So yeah, we're looking for 3 vintage figures, however you want to define vintage. Let's say pre-siege, your favorite, before 2018 figure, and then like the modern era. So anything from like Studio Series starting in 2018, and then Siege 2018 going forward. Like, what are your favorite
Mhm.
figures from both those eras? We're looking for 3 from each. But until then, if you're listening on YouTube, comment below, smash that like button, hit subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, you know what to do by now. And tune in until next time. Any parting words we have for the people, Danny?
Yeah, follow us on Instagram at Brooklyn Bots, at Matrix underscore Mez23. Follow the Instagram podcast, the podcast Instagram. I'm sorry, at Cybertron City Podcast. We got to do a bit more housekeeping on that, but to make it a bit more involved and interesting for you guys. But yeah, let us know what your vintage figures picks are and what your modern picks are. Like Paul said, narrow it down to a little before Siege and then modern after Siege. And yeah, I'm interested in reading what you guys have to say.
Sounds good, guys. It's getting late. We're going to log off, but have a good one. We'll see you next time. And until then, stay classy.
Take it easy, guys.